Welcome, everyone, to our Wednesday meeting for November 16. I hope it's not snowing too much for everyone. Sorry, Sheeta, I had to throw that in
Thanks,
there.
Dan.
It's all right. So cool.
I'm your host and MC, Dan Wasink, and our goals here over at NMUG are to foster community, to share and help each other. We do this by hosting entertaining and informative meetings, as well as classes starting in January. We also like to help each other out through Groups IO. So if you have a question, we're starting to see some more use with that, which is great. With people having problems or questions or anything like that, all they have to do is just go to Groups IO, and then us as a community can try to help each other, which is what one of our goals are. So you can find out all of our latest information at NaplesMUG.com. And of course, you can always go to Groups.io. All of you have a membership to Groups.io. I should put the dot in there. And like I said, this is more of a forum kind of thing where you can go and ask your questions and see if anybody can help you out. If you know anyone that may be interested in this, please let them know. And they can sign up at NaplesMUG.com if they want to try a trial. There's a contact form on there. And we'll get them a link to where they can try it out just for, a month or so and a couple of weeks. And, if they like it, then they can join up, and hopefully they will. Couple of announcements here. Last week's meeting is now online over at YouTube. So you can go to our YouTube channel and take a look at Josh Summers' presentation on internet security. There's a lot of good information in there. You can also go to, a little reminder, allthingssecured.com/NMUG, and he has some good information there. You can find our YouTube links on our site. Mike Kwasniak, who is speaking today, also is extending an invitation for a meeting that they are having over there in England about limiting damage. And that's going to be on November 30th. I have it written in European times there, Wednesday, 30 November at 7:30 GMT. So you'll have to use a little bit of Google to figure out the time for that.
2:30.
2:30 for us, Eastern.
Yes.
All right. Our President, Eckert, do you have anything that you'd like to say, Eckert?
Yes, first of all, I would like to welcome all of our members and other participants today. This is going to be a great meeting, but I do want to talk very briefly about our forthcoming class program. Our organization is probably right now the largest Apple user group in this country, maybe in the world, one of the largest. And there are many clubs like us. But I think where we excel, in many ways we excel, but we have this unique class program that begins in early January. And we will be talking about this class program from now on every Wednesday very briefly. But I would like you to know that on December 1st, we will officially start the registration process for these classes. It just occurred to me that December 1st is a Thursday and November 30th is a Wednesday when we have our meeting in 2 weeks. So I just feel that we should open the gates, we should open the registration on that very day, on Wednesday the 30th. So while we are talking about the class program at that Wednesday, probably a little bit more in detail, you have then the opportunity during the meeting to register for our class program. I just wanted to mention that that will be available as of November 30th. And now I hope we are going to have an outstanding and excellent presentation from our friend Mike Kwasniak. Thank you.
Thank you. Sheeta, anything you'd like to add?
No, I'm good.
All right. If you have any questions, put them in the comments and also, or in the chat. Also, I would recommend everyone open up their chat and keep an eye on that. There's a lot of questions that get answered through there throughout the meeting as well. So it's a good window to keep open. Today we have Mike Kwasniak, and he's going to be talking about creating photo books. With the holiday season coming up, these make great gifts, and there's different tools that you can use. You used to be able to do this through iPhoto. You can no longer do this, natively through the Mac. So there's different tools that you can use, and that is what Mike is going to be taking a look at. So, Mike, it is all yours.
Thanks very much, Dan. Very good evening from the UK, where it's cold. when we first discussed this, I was going to spend the whole meeting talking about Mimeo, which is the plugin for photos that I use to create books. And I've been producing books like this one for many years. I use them as gifts mostly. I give them to clients who are particularly sweet to me, like these lovely people. And as Dan just explained, originally in iPhoto, and I think, in fact, when Photos was first released, I think that you could just go straight to that section and create a book. Then it disappeared. And these days, in order to create books in Photos, you have to go into the App Store and download a plugin. So let me just share my screen. First of all, let's have a quick look in the App Store. If you just search Mimeo, it will take you to this page. Do not be put off by the 3.4 rating, because the 3.4 rating rests at 3.4 because of idiots. And if you read some of the reviews, you'll understand what I mean. People awarding the app 1 star because they couldn't make it work. But when you kind of read their reviews in detail, you kind of understand that it didn't work because they weren't using it properly. It's an incredibly easy thing to download and use, just like an app. Obviously, you click on the download button. There's no charge, and the only thing is it will not appear in your apps folder, because it will appear as a plugin for Photos. So here I am in my Photos library, and down at the bottom you'll see projects, and I've got a long list of projects under the title, and there's a little plus sign here, and nothing happens, I suspect, if you click on that, if you don't have the Mimeo extension installed. But when I click on this, I'm given the option to create books, calendars, cards, wall decors, all sorts of stuff, prints. And you'll see that each of these little menu items carries across to another menu item called Mimeo Photos. And that's where we're going to spend the first half of today's session. My original intention was to spend the entire session talking about Mimeo, but about 3 weeks ago, I was introduced to an online app called My Album, which I think is absolutely sensational. And so I'm going to devote the first half of this session to Mimeo and the second half of the session to My Album. There are huge differences, as you'll see, but let's start here. I love books. I don't know how many I've created through the last 20 years or so, but many, many, many dozens. They're not cheap, but the print quality from Mimeo is absolutely outstanding. The service is really quick. Here in the UK, I think they're printed in Germany, but they're couriered across to the UK, usually within about 5 working days of placing an order. So if you were to consider creating one of these for somebody as a Christmas gift, there's absolutely loads of time. Now, the quickest way to create a book in Mimeo is to go to an album, and I'm just going to select this collection of pictures. So this is a collection of 134 images, which some of you will have seen because I used these when I was talking about iPhone photography a few weeks back. So this is the same batch of images. There's 134 of them. And the quickest way to create a book is simply to select an album, go down to the projects, little plus sign here, click on it, go to book and select Mimeo Photos. And this window will open. There are a number of choices you need to make before you start creating a book. First of all, whether you want a hardcover book or a softcover book. And I'm going to leave it where it is at hardcover. Next, you need to choose a size, and Mimeo provides 2 rectangular and 2 square sizes, 33 by 25. My favorite is the smaller rectangle, which is 28 by 22. And now I'm going to hit create. And that takes you to this slightly disturbingly complex looking page where you need to choose the style of album that you want to use for your pictures. I favor picture book, and I hope that it will be pretty clear why when we start making a book in just a moment. But picture book offers I think the widest range of templates, because everything that we do in this program is template based. So I'm just going to click on this one. And what has happened here is that the book's been created. At the moment, it's blank. Each page has a template of some sort on it. And over on the right-hand side of the screen, we have all of our photos ready to be dragged and dropped into the album. So before we start doing any dragging and dropping, let's just tour the user interface, because there's a lot of stuff going on here. Across the top, there's a little arrow that will take you back to the main page, the open page. So I'm just going to open that, which will take us back to where we were. There's a save option. It does auto save. I'm not actually sure why there's a save option here, because it always auto saves. I've never lost any information whilst creating books. One important thing is there's a little drop down menu which also offers the ability to export a PDF. I love this facility because obviously you can send PDFs to clients to check that they're happy. You can also send them to friends and family if, like in this instance, you're creating a holiday record. A great help section, as you'd expect, all the usual stuff, really well indexed. You can contact support, and I've never had to do this, but they promise that they'll start a conversation with you within 2 minutes if you want to have a dialogue with them, which is fantastic. There's a preview button here, which we won't use yet, and then a running total of the amount that this project's going to cost you. So down the side here, actually, let's just drag a few pictures in before we have a look at those. So this was our extraordinary adventure in Walt Disney World earlier this year. I'm just going to drag that image onto the front cover because I like it. Double click in the add title here box and just type Walt Disney World, which is great. And then I'm going to go down to the bottom and move on to the first page. Now, every page in this program has some sort of aperture or collection of apertures. I think it's just single apertures, but you're not limited, of course, to just putting single images on a page. And if we go over to the right side here and have a look at layout, oh, I'm sorry, nothing's happening because I haven't chosen anything. You need to select a window and then go to layout. And we're given a ton of options. So there are options for a single photograph, 2 photographs, 3 photographs, 4 photographs, 5 or more photographs, and then images with text. So just for the moment, let's keep this easy and just click on 2 photos. And I'm given lots and lots of options. I'm going to hit this one because I think that's 2 full frames. And then I'm going to go back to the Photos tab and drag my first 2 images in. I'm going to pay no attention to what I'm doing here because it's too time consuming. So I'm just going to drag 2 images in just to illustrate that you can basically do what you want. If I decided I wanted to change this layout and have 3 images, I could go back to the layout option. I could click on the 3 images choice and select perhaps this window, go back to photos and stick another one in. Endlessly editable, right up to the point, if you order a book, right up to the point when you click the order button, you can make changes to any page, you can make changes to all pages, which we'll be doing shortly. If you want to add text, there's an option to add text. And by clicking on this add empty text box window, I can whoops. Just going to move that so it's visible. There we go. It's incredible, absolutely incredible program. Let's do some more. So I'm going to move on to the next page. Go back to my photos and pull in a few more. Now the window that I've just dropped this image into is obviously the wrong shape for this image. The ratio of width to height is incorrect. This is a 3:2 image, and I don't know what this box is, but I suspect it's something like maybe 2:1. And one of the options that the program offers, if you're not happy with what you're looking at, is this box up right, which says rearrange layout. And by clicking on it, it will, oh, there we go. It will work its way through every single variation available until you find the one that you want to use. Let's carry on. Now, this is, I'm sure you get the idea from that. I've only done 3 pages, but it's such a simple thing. And let's just do one more. So if I go on to the next page, page 4, and I decide that, I decide that I want a lot of images on this page. So I'm going to click on 5+ photos. And you can see that, how many here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 30 images on a single page if you wanted to go completely mad. But I can choose something like this, go back to my photos button, and just drag them in. And the lovely thing about this is, if you make mistakes, it simply doesn't matter, because you can change them whenever you want. Now you can see across this window now, lots of the images have got this big black circle with a number 1 in. That's informing me that this image has been used once in the album, okay, and that's all. So if that number ever increases above 1, unless you've used an image on the cover that you've also used inside, you might want to check it out, find one of them and change it for something else. Now, this all gets very confusing because I've got 134 images here. And although they're in date order, on this particular holiday, we bounced around in Walt Disney World and Universal for 2 full weeks. So sometimes we did more than 1 park a day. So we returned to parks perhaps with a 7-day break between the visits. So the images aren't in any particular order. And it gets really, really complicated if you actually work this way and drag in all of the images you want to use in the album. And one of the ways that you can get around that is, and I'm going to have to start another album to do this, so please bear with me a second. I'm just going to go back to my Walt Disney World album. I'm going to start a new project and go through the same process. Sorry, I've made a mistake. Live, working live, it's a killer, isn't it? What you need to do is make sure that nothing is selected here. And that's what I meant to do. So that now, when I create an album, a book, I'm sorry, going through exactly the same process, the book will be empty. I'm just going to choose the same style. So we have exactly the same book, but there's nothing presently in our photos column. And this is the way that I much prefer to work. And this is the way that I recommend that you work, unless all of your images are in date order. So I'm going to go back to my Walt Disney World April 22 album. And I'm just going to pick up a handful so that they're, whoops, sorry. So they're easy to sort through. I'm just going to pick up these, 20 or so, and I'm going to drag them down to the project that we've just created, which will be at the bottom. I don't know why it's called 10 people. I think that's it. And click. Now I have those 20 or so selected images. So it's much, much easier to make choices. Now there's a pile of stuff from Pandora here. I don't know if we went back there, but if I now go back to my album and pick up, yeah, so there's another one there. And there, that may be all. So to add those two, so they're sitting with the current group of Pandora images, all I have to do is drag them down to the album and release. And now they're sitting here. And now if I want to run a sequence of shots of Pandora at night, I have access to all of them without having to sift through 130 images. Easy-ish.
We got an interesting question from
Yeah,
Mitch.
fire away.
Mitch, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, you mentioned those photos are in date order. Can you,
Yes.
by default, have the date put on the photo?
I don't think you can, Mitch, I'm afraid.
Okay, thank you.
No, I think if you wanted date information, I'm pretty sure that you would have to insert that manually using the text option. So I've jumped a step here to a kind of part finished album. And let's just race through these images just so that you can see what I've done. So my cover, page one of the beautiful hotels that we stayed in. I love, does anybody remember iWeb?
Yes.
I
Yes.
loved,
Yes.
so iWeb was created by Apple about 5,000 years ago. And it enabled absolute numpties like me to create websites because it was just drag and drop. And this kind of reminds me of iWeb because it is so simple to use, but I think the results always look absolutely beautiful. So as long as your pictures are in focus and look nice, whatever you do, Mimeo will make them look better or present them in a really, really interesting way. I'm actually on the right page. So you're not just limited to pictures on single pages. You can also add, if you wish, double page spreads. And I've hit a wall here where I have 2 pages of shots taken around the big Star Wars ride. And then on the next page, we move to something completely different. So I wanted to add a page after this page with some more on. So down here at the bottom left, we've got a little plus and a minus. So I can add a page by hitting the plus button, or if I needed to remove a page, I could hit the minus. So I'm just going to click on a plus, and you can see that that's added a double page spread immediately after the shot that I had selected, a page that I had selected. And I'm going to add a massive, great 2-page wide image. We were so lucky on Rise of the Resistance. I don't know how many of you have experienced Rise of the Resistance, but it's an experience at Disney like no other. Because it's so huge. And we were very lucky because one of the problems with Rise of the Resistance is technically it is so complex, it is always breaking down. And when it breaks down, obviously all of the everything grinds to a halt. a lot of lads in Disney gear come out and just tell you to get out of your cars, and they escort you out of the building. And being a photographer, even though I was just a photographer using an iPhone, I immediately pulled my phone out to start taking pictures. And the guy shouted, "No, no photography, no photography. You must put your cameras away." And I just thought, what are you going to do? Throw me out? So I took some pictures. And if I just go back now to and just find one of the massive, massive great. Oh, yes, here it is. So I've got two absolutely beautiful panoramas here. But as you can see, because they're panoramas, they're going to stretch very nicely across 2 pages. So the first thing I need to do is make this a double page spread rather than a single page spread. So I'm going to go to layout, and you can see that we have an option for page or spread. And when I click on spread, it's just going to be a single photo in this particular instance. And I basically want it to just fill the space. So I'm going to click this first option. And now I can go back to my photos and drag this in. And I cannot tell you the joy that this gives me, because the book's about a foot wide. So that means that when you open it, this image is 2 feet wide and looks so impressive and so gorgeous. I've actually, there's another one there taken at the same sort of area. But again, I just wanted to illustrate that you have just incredible freedom to move whatever you wish, absolutely whatever you wish. I want to take this out for a moment because I just remembered I've forgotten something that I should have mentioned before and didn't. And I'm just going to take this back to single photos. And that is a button we haven't yet messed with is the organize button. And it's a lifesaver if you get stuff out of sequence or you need to move stuff around. Now, the reason that I got rid of the panorama is that obviously a panorama spreads its way across 2 pages. And obviously those 2 pages must always be together. You couldn't have the first half of the panorama on a right-hand page, followed by the right-hand side of the panorama on the next left-hand page, because that obviously would be ridiculous, which is why I've just taken it out. So at the moment, if I click on the organize button, I have the freedom to pull pages out and move them should I need to. So again, I talked earlier about this incredible flexibility that this program offers. So you can do anything. It doesn't matter where you put images. It doesn't matter if you make mistakes, because, let's say page 27 here, I suddenly realize, oops, those pictures aren't at Universal. They're in Walt Disney World. So I could just pick that page up and nip it back to here, say, where all of the preceding images are of Walt Disney World. So what else can we do? Let's assume that we're organized and it's all good. There are a couple of other options here that we haven't explored. One is backgrounds and the other is borders. And we'll have a look at backgrounds first. There's a huge number of options. I personally prefer plain backgrounds. White is not particularly my favorite color for a background photographs. I much prefer grays like this one. Oh, I've got nothing selected again. Sorry. Grays like this one, or perhaps that one. And if I decided that I really liked this particular shade of gray and I wanted to extend this across the entire album, all I do is go down to the bottom of the column, click on the ellipsis here, and select apply to all. And as you can see from the thumbnails at the bottom of the window, I now have a gray album. Same even applies to the cover. There are a few more problems here because, of course, if I make this dark gray, let's just select the cover. If I made this the same shade of gray. The text looks a bit rubbish. So I'm going to just click in the text, click text up here and change the color to white. That looks much better. I might even choose to change the color of the background now to black. And I really like that. So I'm going to let that ride. So gray pages, black cover. The other option we have is borders, and the same thing applies. They're incredibly simple to apply. And when they've been applied, I think they add a sort of professional touch to the images that I really, really like. I want to illustrate it with a somewhat busier page. So let's go to page 2. So here we have 4 images. And on this page, we have 5 images. And because these are all of vegetation, they kind of run into each other a bit and become a bit difficult to read. So the answer is, we'll select one, we'll pop a border around it, and that really separates that image from the rest. So I'm just going to select that again and go back across to the drop-down option to apply to all. And now every single image in my album has lovely, smart, crisp white borders. So assuming now that everything is in place, we can add that panorama. So I'm just going to go back to layout, spread, because we want the image to spread across 2 pages, 1 photo, and then go to photo and drag that image back in. There we go. You get the idea. It's really simple. It's really simple. Now, when you kind of feel that you're moving towards the end, perhaps if you want to preview it, there is a preview option that just gets rid of all of these windows to the right-hand side. It's on the top right-hand corner. I'm just going to click on preview. Back to the beginning of the album, and now I can race through each of the pages to make sure I'm happy.
Mike, we have a couple of questions that might be appropriate at this time.
Yeah, far away.
All right, Jane Wood, can you unmute yourself and ask a question about the image?
Yes, Mike, really great stuff here. So in Apple Books, we used to be able to take an image and use it for the background where you have the gray now, and then insert other photos on top.
Yep, it's still available. It's still available. Okay, in fact, yeah, let's come out of preview. I'll have to just go back into the album. Actually talk about something I haven't talked about yet, and that's the menu that opens when you click on any image in the album. And let's just have a look at the options that we have here. First of all, there's a zoom control, so I can zoom around the image if I want to. Leave that where it is. I can transform this. So although this program is template based, if I wanted let's say I wanted to add some text, quite a lot of text, a substantial amount of text to this image, I could hit the transform button, and that will give me control of the window. So I could change it to there, pick the image up, and whoops, sorry. Oh, I'm still in transform. Yeah, just wiggle the image along to a sort of the most interesting section, which is there. And now I could go and pick up a text. I could create a text box, and I could run as much text down the side here as I wanted. Now, the facility that you're talking about is just there. And it says background. And when I click on it, that image has now become a background, so I can now place other images on top of it if I need to. So does that answer your question? It does answer your question, yes?
Yes, it does. And then to place the other images, then you would go to the layout and
because it's not something I've done. So let me just try. Let's do it on another page. So I'm going to go to this page, which has got 4 images on. Let's say we want to use this image of the Tree of Life as a background image. So, oh, there you go.
oh, yeah, nice.
So the other images have remained exactly where they were, but that is now a background image. And I assume, since the others have stayed where they are, that I still have the option to rearrange. Yes, I do. The layout. Look at that.
Fantastic.
Hey, I'm learning stuff. I love NMUG.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm assuming that answers your question, John Prescott. If you could unmute yourself.
Hello, John.
Yeah, my question's about bleeds, Mike, and I see from the graphics that it looks as if it does allow bleeds. It does. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful. Cynthia Nicholson, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes. Hi, Mike. Great presentation. I'm wondering about the resolution of that 2-page spread. Does that decrease?
I don't know the resolution that it's printed at. What I can tell you is that I always output 5 megabyte files. And if you're shooting with your iPhone, the files are big enough to do double page spreads. And actually, let me just illustrate this. If somewhere I have, yes. So I purposely made this book, which has only got half a dozen images in it, using low resolution images. So if, for example, I picked up this image and try to use it as a background, it'll work. If, however, if I change the layout to a double page spread, can you see these red exclamation marks have appeared? And that's because the resolution of this image simply isn't adequate to stretch that 2-foot width. So the program won't allow you to make mistakes. It won't allow you to create an album that has pixelated images in it, because you'll get big warning signs saying, don't do this because it's going to be rubbish.
That's wonderful that it does that.
Yeah.
So these are all too small, and you can see, so I've got red exclamation marks, and I've got a big warning up here saying that the photo resolution is too low. So
were you shooting in RAW initially? Or do you?
Yeah, I did. I did a talk last month for NMUG, because on this particular holiday, I decided for the first time ever to leave my camera at home and just use my iPhone. So all of the images were recorded on an iPhone 11, but I did shoot in RAW.
Okay.
And I'm astonished. I mean, I will never take a camera on holiday again, because I'm astonished at the quality that I was able to produce. It's absolutely delightful. Let me just move on.
But Cynthia, he did say before that he made these low res images on purpose. So
yes,
he could have shot it in RAW, but he just changed the resolution of those images.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. I just wondered if he was shooting RAW altogether most of the time. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Cynthia.
I'm a photographer by trade. And I remember in the early days of RAW, we all started shooting everything in RAW professionally. But everybody said, well, you don't need to do that on holiday, do you? That's ridiculous because of all the work. But I hope that if you're a keen photographer, that you get as much joy out of editing as I do, because I really, really love opening RAW images and messing with them to make them as good as I can make them. And so it's become part of the sort of joy of the holiday shoot, really.
You can
just talking about, I need to open another album, which is here. So this Saturday, we're going to spend a few hours with a couple of friends who on our recommendation, did their first hiking holiday in the USA. We've done a lot of hiking in the USA, and they said, can you just bring a bunch of images just to show some of the places that you've been to? So I went through, I suppose, how many? 2013 was our first. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I went through 6 holidays and just pulled out a handful of shots from each one. But just to give you a for instance, we visited Antelope Canyon in Utah twice, because once just, those of you who have been there will understand when I say once is just not enough. It is the most extraordinary cathedral-like, brilliant place to visit on the planet. We absolutely loved it. But that meant that some of the images were up here in the collection and some of the images were down here in the collection. So I created an album, and as I'm sure you know, in albums, in photos, you can change the order of images. So I've pulled everything into an order that makes sense. So we have Bryce Canyon, then we have Horseshoe Bend, Lake Powell, the canyon, then, you know, so on and so on. So all the shots that should be together are together. And that's when that technique that I described earlier of just dragging in a few at a time really comes into its own, because to make an album with these images, I would pick up all of the images of Bryce, drag those in, position them on the pages, come back to the album, pick up my images of Horseshoe Bend, and Lake Powell, because there are hardly any, and drop those into the album and position those, then pick up Antelope Canyon and position those, and so on and so on. And it becomes really easy and a little bit time consuming, but ultimately, I think, incredibly satisfying. And so just to finish this off, that's not the one, that's the one. So this was my finished book. I've not had this printed. I mean, I did this really for this exercise, but just to whip through it, and you can see the beauty of and going back to iWeb, this is just like iWeb. I had a really great moment in my Mac user group life, because Suffolk is about 17 years old. And in the early days, obviously, I set up a website for the group, and I used iWeb. I am a complete technical numpty. I'm completely and utterly useless at things technical. But iWeb was so easy to use, and it did exactly what this does, and that is it makes everything look nice, well presented. And Mac Format, one of the UK magazines, not sure if you had that in the States as well, probably. But anyway, they did an editorial on Mac user groups, and actually said, you know, if you want to see a really good example of a Mac user group website, visit Suffolk's. And it had been created by somebody who barely knew what a website was. And that's kind of what I feel about these books, that, you know, a small amount of work can create something really quite stunning. So that's that. Let's move on. So as I said earlier, I was going to spend the whole of this session talking about Mimeo, and I decided not to, because this happened. It's just
could I break in with a question?
Yeah.
Alan, yes, go ahead.
My question in the chat box was, can you actually put text within the image rather than below it or the side of it? Can you embed text actually within the image, or does the text have to be within the image before you import it?
No, Alan, you have absolute, complete control to put it absolutely anywhere you want it.
So you can superimpose it within the image itself.
100%. And I didn't, you know, you can make you have complete control over the text as well. So, you know, you can use any of the fonts that you have on your computer. You can use them at any size as well.
Okay, I don't think you completely understand my question.
He's saying embedded. Are you saying embedded or superimposed?
In the image itself.
Yes.
You're saying, okay, hold on. I don't think you understand what he's saying, Mike.
Oh.
He's not saying superimposed over the image. He's saying embedded, like metadata.
Oh, crikey. No, I don't think so. Because we're not playing with metadata here. We're playing with pixels. But I thought you meant, rather than destroy this, let me just go back to my work in progress album. If I wanted to put some text, say, just here, then I would select this image, open the text box, click on add empty text box, do a bit of typing. Oh, and I've lost it, but it's there. Oh, God, sorry. This is going horribly wrong, isn't it? Let me do another one. Add an empty text box. I probably couldn't find it because it was probably too small. And
make it white so you can see it against the.
Yeah, I'm going to. So I'm going to change its size right up to 20. I'm going to change its color to white. And now I should, I can see it now. There it is. So I can put that wherever I want.
All right. All right.
Can you
great. Okay. Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Can you add a text box without selecting an image?
Add a text box? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Can you just, like, this way it allows you to put the text anywhere?
Yeah.
Okay.
Look,
Let
me I'll just check. Just select that image once again and add another empty text box. And a bit like Photoshop. Oh no, does that happen with Photoshop? It happens with Affinity Photo. The more I type into this text box, the box beneath it will just grow in size to accommodate everything that I type. So you can add you can add a whole load of text if you want to.
But do you have to add it to
Can we ask that you not do that? Can we ask that you not do that? Can you please not do that?
So if you've already, sorry, Shita, if you've already got text typed in a document somewhere, you can copy and paste it into this window.
Okay.
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 Forgive me, because I really want to move on before time runs out to talk about what I consider to be something of a miracle. I pootle along to a tiny Mac user group that meets in Arizona on Zoom, obviously. And it was a member of this little Arizona group that introduced me to my album. And this only happened last month. I'd never heard of this. And I am absolutely jaw-droppingly gobsmacked by how absolutely fabulous this program is. So this is online. You just go to www.myalbum.com and you create an account with just a username and a password. There is a free level, and that is the only level I will be using, I think. There are paid levels. They're not hugely expensive, like $5 a month kind of paid levels. And if you opt for a paid level, then you gain access to a lot more templates so that you can make your albums even more beautiful. But just have a look at this. So this is the same group of images, okay, that we've just been messing with. Now, on the first page, we've got movies. And they've done the cleverest thing, because you share this as a PDF. It is designed to be shared as a PDF, but you can also have books made, but you can even have movies in the book. This is just brilliant. So here I've got 3 little movies from Disney. And I've embedded them in just by dragging and dropping in the same way that you dragged and drop your pictures. I'll show you how that works in a minute. But if you have a book made, the publisher picks up a still from the movie, prints that, but also prints a QR code. And when you aim your iPhone at the QR code, it reads it and it runs the movie on your phone. I mean, that I've never come across anything like that before. And I just think it's just brilliant. So if I'll just click on this. And the way that this works is it's completely automated. You have very little control over the way that images are dropped, but you can swap them around, as I'll illustrate in a minute. But when you send this PDF off to a friend or a family member or a client, if they want to have a look at a picture in more detail, when they click on it, it comes up full screen. And when you click again, it goes back. It's just brilliant. I cannot put into words how clever I think this is. So it's all the same shots. And, you know, it doesn't matter how small the images are. You want to see the whole thing, you get the whole thing in full res, and it's beautiful. And the service, things may change, of course, but the service presently is free.
And what was the name of that service again?
It's myalbum.com. So I'm just going to go back to the. So at the moment, because I haven't, you see, I've not even had this 30 days yet. It gives it offers you, it tempts you to a 30-day free trial of the premium version. But as I said, it's doing everything that I need it to do. Have a look at the National Park collection. So it just recognizes, it recognizes panorama and drops them into a full page. This is so beautiful. And for my money, a far more exciting way actually to look at holiday pictures than the usual, we put the television on and show our neighbors the 4,000 pictures we dragged back from Utah, which I don't know about you, but I hate it when that happens. And this way, you have to go to Antelope Canyon. It is the most extraordinary place on earth. It's just lovely. So how does it work? Let's make one very quickly. So all you have to do is hit on the new button here, a new album. You give it a name, the subtitle, and you choose your template. So it has a choice of two. The classic is much more like the stuff that we've just been looking at from Mimeo, with very neat lines. Enriched adds effects and different colored pages and stuff. And you then click on choose photos, videos. And I have a folder which just has 21 images in it here. So it should load fairly quickly. So I'm just going to choose those 21 images and click on upload. Talk amongst yourselves for about 30 seconds.
Could I get a question again?
Please don't do that. Please don't do that.
Okay.
Please put it in the chat or raise your hand. Please do not open your mic and do that. We out of respect for anyone else who may be ahead of you, we ask that you not do that.
Yeah, when I did this with the American holiday pictures, I think there are exactly 100 images in the folder. And this probably took maybe 5 full minutes to upload. I don't know how much of that is uploading time and how much of that is processing time, because astonishing things seem to happen very quickly, as you'll see in a second.
So while you're doing this, Heidi, you have a question? Go ahead. Unmute yourself and ask your question. It relates to what's going on now.
Yeah, my question is, so you have photos in an album in Photos, and how did you get to downloading them to the My Album?
I exported, so I don't, I mean, the images that I'm using at the moment here are not in my my photos collection, but what you'd need to do is export them into a folder onto your desktop.
Okay. So yeah, I use a different book and I do the same thing, so I understand.
Great.
Thank
so
you,
here it
Heidi.
is, and it's chosen a completely inappropriate cover. So, but that doesn't matter because we have an edit function top left, and when I click that, all sorts of things happen. I have the front page now selected, and I have a number of options. Quite like that. So I then just basically just work through the album, and so again, you've got lots of editing facilities here. If I like this general layout, but I don't want this text box because I don't want to use any text, I just select it, click on it, go down to the trash, bottom right-hand corner. And not only does it get rid of that text box, but it also reformats the template to fill the space. And these are not ideal, so this needs raising a bit. These are the wrong format. These are both portrait images, and at the moment what we're seeing are squares. So I'm going to click on the page option at the bottom and just go hunting for a better one. Oh, actually, which is probably this one, because now if I drag this image into that space, that works really well. This is a bit low in the frame, so I can just raise it a little. I'd like to see that fill more of the space. If that's an option, it doesn't look like it is. Okay, we'll leave that as it is. And needless to say, yes?
Joe has a question.
Yes.
Joe, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, I just wonder what kind of format you have to, is there any particular format like JPEG, or can you use other kinds of formats?
Do you know, I actually don't know the answer to that. I've used JPEGs. I don't know. Is the short answer. I'll try it later with some Photoshop files and see if it speaks. I'm just going to change this because I love this image. This is the craziest place I've ever been asked to photograph a piece of theatre. And it's a USAF, it's at USAF Bentwaters, and it was a wind tunnel used for testing jet engines. And these days they do live theatre in it, and it's very exciting. And I want that to have impact, so I want it to fill the page. So you get the idea. So once that's done, all you have to do is click on this button at the top here, and it will ask you how you want to share the album, whether you want it to go public or whether you want it to be private. And the difference here is that if you click on private, anybody that you send the link to will have to be a signed up member of myalbum.com. If you stick with public and then click on continue, it will ask you how you want to share it. So I could go straight to my Facebook account if I chose to. I don't. I'm just going to click on email, and there's my link. So I can send that to anybody and everybody, and they will be able to then access the album. Let's just minimize this for a second. I'm just going to turn the editing features off. and you'll see that the album has just been added now to my collection of albums. And when I click on that, I've got all those same options, so I can see images full screen. It's just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And the joy of this is, and I can see me using it on holiday next year, because the joy of this is that once you start an album, you can add to it whenever you want, because all you have to do is hit the edit button top left, and you can see that there's a plus sign next to the edit button. And if I click on that, I can add photos and videos. So were I in the position when we visited Disney this year to actually have access to this program, I would have probably used it on holiday and added stuff on a daily basis, because of course, once my family had access to the album, they could visit it each day and see it growing, which I just think is lovely.
So with the free account, is there a limit on the amount of space that you're taking up?
So the friend in the Arizona group said he felt embarrassed because he walks a lot, and he set himself the target of going out every single day for his daily routine exercise, and come home with a fascinating, different kind of collection of pictures. So he was forcing himself to really analyze his landscape and look for stuff that he'd not noticed before. And he was taking hundreds of pictures and adding them all the time. And so far, he's had no complaints, which is great.
All right. Yeah, that's not going to be free for long. I got 3 questions for you.
I think, Sheeta, I think you might be right. And I think the current sales model might not be quite the success that they hoped it might be. And of course, that's when.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess, to be honest, as long as the price is low enough, I'd dive in, because I think it's
All
great.
Right. John Hartill, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question about the copyright protection?
Thank you, Sheeta. Hi, Mike. It's John Harthill.
Hello, John.
Thank you. Fascinating talk. Very, very informative. Thank you. My only concern, I guess, with my album would be, is there any assurances on copyright protection?
Is there any copyright assurance on anything? I mean, if you, I'm being cynical. No, I'm not being cynical. I'm being truthful. As a professional theatre photographer, I, at first, became very anxious indeed about copyright. If you just Google my name and click on the images button, you'll see about 25,000 images. I haven't given Google permission to share them, but unfortunately that's the way of the world. So I'm afraid, as far as copyright is concerned, I refuse to allow it to trouble me. I hope that's sufficient an answer for you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
You just need to share that link with people you trust, I suppose.
So you don't make them public?
Yeah,
Mike?
I don't quite.
So you don't make your links public?
Well, I don't. I mean, I send them to my family and friends that I want to see them. I mean, obviously I couldn't stop them sharing them.
Okay.
I certainly would not post things like that on my Facebook account, which, if I wanted every single living person I know to see them, that would be the first place I'd post them. But no,
Okay. All right. Alan Kent, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, thank you. I'm intrigued by the printed My Album pictures that have the QR code for video. So the question is, where is the video actually stored? And is there a charge for this?
Well, you'd buy a book, of course. So I guess the charge for that is basically part of the cost of the book. I I'm afraid I don't know where it's stored because this is, as I said, this all completely new to me. I only stumbled on this last month, and yeah, I don't know. What I can tell you is if you have a book made, they have some pretty astonishing books, the likes of which Mimeo do not offer. Let me just choose one and hit the purchase button. So there you go. Not only do they offer soft cover and hardcover, but they also offer a lay flat cover. Now, lay flat is something that I was familiar with because as a wedding photographer, we provided a lot of books made by a company called Graphic Studio in Italy. And they produce these beautiful pages that lay absolutely flat. And you can see it in the illustration here. So you don't get that curve at the spine at all. And it does mean that if you've got shots like those, those 2-page wide panoramas, they read without this horribleness. And yeah, it's £10. Well, it's £10 more. So, no, £9 more. So is it worth it? I haven't seen one, so I can't really comment. Just to find out what the quality was like, I had a soft cover. Can I stop sharing now? Because I think we're.
Don't, because I actually have two questions I'd like to get through to you. So if you could be quick, then I'll be quick.
Yeah, no, go with your question, Sheeta.
All right. So Frank, I think your question relates to both books, both sites. Can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, thanks, Cheetah. Mike, this has been a great presentation. Can you do a panorama for the front cover going to the back cover?
I don't know. Have I got enough time? 37. Let's quickly open it and have a look. Okay, so that's the layout. It would appear not, because having selected the back cover, clicked on layout, I would expect to see one side or 2 panels, and I'm not getting either. So I think that's a no, I'm afraid.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Frank. My question was about when you export to PDF.
Yes.
Can you export to a high quality PDF so that you can make sure that the resolution is high, or do they do this also already for you?
I don't think there are any options, but thanks for the cue, because I forgot about this. So here's the PDF of this, and the quality is fabulous.
It is.
So the only place the PDF falls apart is with panoramas, because it's single pages. You get this. So this is the left-hand side of a panorama, and that's the right-hand side. And unfortunately, you cannot join the two together in the PDF. But that's a minor issue for me, because those colors. This is an iPhone 11. Just amazing.
Okay, wonderful. All right, now you can go ahead and show what you wanted to show.
Stop share. So I showed you this book earlier. So this is a hardback book. It's got a lovely dust jacket, but it's also printed on the book itself and looks great. The print quality is lovely. I had a book printed by my album. So this is a production at my local theatre of Kinky Boots that I photographed last month. And the colours are astounding, and the print quality is astounding. And it absolutely matches the colours that I see on my monitor. So hats off to them. They're going to be seeing some of my money.
Wonderful. All right. Anything else? I see that Alan has a question. Alan, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask a question.
Can you tell us the difference in price between printing the same book in My Album and Mimeo?
No, no. I suspect that my album will be less expensive than Mimeo.
All right.
This, I mean, this was £17, which I suppose £17 is quite a lot of money, but you know, we're talking about self-publishing, so it's, you can see it's about, what is about 13 inches wide, 8 inches high. I have no idea what sort of work is involved in manufacturing one of these, but it's, you know, I think it's worth the money.
Right.
Alan, so yeah, here's something you could do. Try it and report back.
Wonderful. And if you do, please report back and let us know what your results are. With that, I want to thank you so much, Mike, for such a absolutely exceptional presentation, as always. And unless you have anything else you want to say, I want to hand it over to Dan. Dan, we can't hear you.
All right. Yep.
Okay, great.
All right. Thank you, Mike. That was awesome. And I am going to be checking out, or actually, I just created an account on My Album as you're demonstrating it.
Right.
And you know, me coming from a web side of it, it's just like, holy cow, just the web, you know, to share a link and then get the book. So you sold me on that. Absolutely good information there. So if everyone could unmute themselves and thank Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike, it was fabulous.
Definitely
Thanks,
used for
Mike.
the holiday.
Thanks.
Fantastic demonstration.
Great gifts.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes.
Thank you, Mike.
Next week, we are going to be talking about holiday gifts. We're going to have Sheeta, Mitch, and myself talking about some of our favorite things. And it's now that Mike did this My Album, like, I think that's a perfect kind of thing. So call this a precursor to holiday gifts. And Mimeo is good. Don't get me wrong. I've used Mimeo, but that I'm with Mike on My Album. It's like, wow, that's impressive. Very impressive. So join us next week for holiday gifts. Outside of that, thank you, everyone. And if you know anyone that could benefit from our site, point them over to the site and, you know, have them check it out. Contact us if they'd like to try it out for a couple of meetings, and then hopefully we can get them on board. So without your support, we can't be doing this. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Be well. Have a great day, evening, afternoon, wherever you are. And we'll see you next week. Goodbye.